Priority clearance recognition, Alpha 1.
Jolan True Attack Wing fans, and welcome to another Antares Shipyard video here on YouTube. My name is Jerry from the Antares Shipyard, and last week over in the Facebook community for Star Trek Attack Wing, there was a comment on a question that someone had asked that really grabbed my attention. To paraphrase the comment, it was something along the lines of, what if WizKids were to make the motion picture movie era faction pack? And I subsequently asked it on the Antares Shipyard Facebook page, and a lot of people responded with what should be included in the pack, and I thank everybody for the responses. It's definitely a topic that I've been thinking about since last week up into the recording of this video, and I really wanted to make a video on it. So I want to welcome everyone to this new video series that I'm going to call What If? This video series will be highly speculative, and it'll cover multiple topics pertaining to the Attack Wing world. With this being a video heavy with speculation, there are going to be a few ground rules that I'm going to set in this video moving forward, and we'll cover those here in a second. But I definitely wanted to visit this faction pack because I believe it is a wonderful idea that WizKids should really be looking at. And if anything else, this video has just been made to serve, WizKids a love letter to this faction pack idea. So, having said that, let's move on to the ground rules. Since their introduction back in 2017, faction packs have been a great way to get lots of ships, lots of cards out to consumers. And looking over the most recent faction packs, it appears that they generally come with about 25 to 28 cards. I'm not going to cover every card that should come in these faction packs that I'm going to speculate on, but I'll cover a good majority of the main things. Ships, crew, maybe some extras here and there. The ground rules that I've established follow what seem to be the norms for WizKids and their faction packs from what I've seen from the last few releases. So ground rule number one, I'm not going to speculate about any ships that don't have current molds in the game. And I know that a lot of people want new molds, and I'm with you. But until WizKids does that, I think it's out of the question. So I don't think it's worth our time to really speculate on that. Ground rule number two, all cards must be considered on-screen alpha canon. From what I've seen, minus the few exceptions that WizKids has done here recently, a lot of their cards you can find information on through like Memory Alpha, which is the main resource that I use to find a lot of the cards that we're going to be looking at today, and that I think should be in this faction pack. So the card has to appear on screen at some point, and we'd have to have, for like a captain, you have to have a name, or a ship has to have a name. Ground rule number three, the cards in this pack must come from Star Trek the Motion Picture through Star Trek VI The Undiscovered Country. I ruled out Generations, mainly because they spend a majority of that movie in the TNG era, and I feel that that's something that we could talk about in the future if people like this kind of content. And then ground rule number four is going to be just kind of with the 3 out of the 4 last faction packs, they've included 2 ambassador cards, and I believe there is a lot of room to be doing stuff with those. And just kind of another, not really a ground rule, but just kind of a disclaimer right now. The cards that I'm about to show are definitely mock-ups that I myself made and used screen caps from TrekCore. I did not put any abilities on the cards because I don't want to speculate that far down the rabbit hole, so to say. I feel like these cards that I'm about to show are very good bones for a faction pack that's labeled like this. And this is a TMP style faction pack, so everything we're going to see is in that line. And for fun fact, for those who don't know off the top of your guys' heads, There are 12 named ships that appear from Star Trek the Motion Picture to Star Trek 6 The Undiscovered Country. And out of those 12, we have all but two. So there aren't going to be too many new cards in the pack. But enough wasting time. Let's get right on over to the table and we will take a look at the cards. Alright, so welcome to my table here in TTS. Let's get these cards pulled. So, the first card in the pack is actually, I'm going to call it more of a double card. Yeah, let's get that put there. Alright, so this is probably the set of cards that WizKids would be more inclined to entertain in adding into the faction pack, because the Constitution class refits have not been recosted yet. And doing the calculation from the other Constitutions from the animated faction pack, when they recosted them, they recosted them down by 4. And the Constitution refits were +2 more than the old Constitutions, so hence why I think the recost will end up around 18 points for the generic. Completely speculative. I could be wrong. I don't know what formula they use for the math, but I think this is a great way to not only get us an Enterprise A in the game, that's outside of the Grand Prize Enterprise A, because that ship has gone sky high in its price, but we can get ourselves a second Constitution class refit. And I know what you're saying. The USS Yorktown wasn't ever on screen. You're breaking your ground rules. And to that I say, technically, the USS Yorktown was on screen at the end of Star Trek 4, 5, all of 5, all of 6. Because they did what they did with the Defiant. They renamed an existing ship. So it switched from the Enterprise A to the USS, or from the Yorktown to the Enterprise A. So that's a good way to kind of sneak in another Constitution class refit ship. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's a great baseline for getting us a Constitution class refit. I wouldn't mind if they released a retail version with the same ability that came with the Grand Prize, because that ability is crazy good, especially against cloaked ships. But they also could do a dual faction based on the Enterprise A from Star Trek 5, where Cybok takes over. So they could do a Federation independent faction. I just left these 3 straight Federation. So the next 3 ships that I would include in the faction pack have all already been recosted. And that would be, of course, the USS Saratoga from the start of Star Trek 4. That's that Miranda class that encountered the whale probe, and it kind of just got its power drained and was kind of left adrift in space. Now, the interesting thing about the Saratoga is that none of the crew or the captain's named. So I wasn't able to include them unless you want to do more like a generic Federation captain, kind of like how we have some Gorn captain, Gorn commander. But I didn't really think that was too creative for the pack. So I did include some other captains to kind of fill the captain role for this ship. As far as an ability for the ship goes, I don't want to get into putting abilities on these cards, because I just want to see, what the bones of a faction pack of this type would look like. But it could definitely do something to deal with aux power and emergency power situations. I definitely think that could be pretty interesting. Now the next card in the pack I think should be the USS Excelsior. I know we already have a USS Excelsior in the game. There aren't any other Excelsior class ships in the movies. The Excelsior is it, but the original ship that came out with the waves in its original blister is kind of hard to find nowadays. And on top of that, it was more flavored towards Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I would definitely flavor this Excelsior more towards what you see in the Undiscovered Country. So the ability could be towards something towards that effect, something you see in that movie. Um, and definitely a lot of the cards that accompany this ship would be from that particular movie. And then the last ship in the faction pack that I would put would be Claw's Bird of Prey. Claw is the captain, the Klingon captain from Star Trek V, A Final Frontier. The one that ended up fighting Shakari, the alien that goes by many names. Tried to shoot the shuttlecraft out of the sky. He is the only Klingon that we do not have. The only Klingon from an original the motion picture era movie grouping that we don't have a ship for. So I think he's a natural fit. So the faction pack would be made up of a Constitution, a Miranda class, an Excelsior class, and a Klingon Bird of Prey. All right. So moving on to the captains. I know it's another James T. Kirk, but I can't, in my own mind, I cannot get past that we're making a faction pack based on the motion picture era movies. You have to have a James T. Kirk. I did not include any of the other of the main cast. He's the only one that I really included. Well, I guess that's a lie, but you'll see what I mean. I think he's necessary to be in the pack. So in the card art, again, this is a James T. Kirk that I would flavor towards Star Trek V. Find some kind of thematic ability that goes there. The other captain I would include would be Pavel Chekhov. It's a captain that we haven't had before in the game, and I know many people will say, "Well, Pavel Chekhov was never a captain." He was left in command of the Enterprise when everybody went down to Nimbus 3 in Star Trek V. So he was in command when the shuttle was coming on board. I just think that's a nice little nod to give us something a little different. And again, you can always flavor this towards the Star Trek V ability or make it thematic. Okay, so the USS Yorktown is also, not only is it at the end of Star Trek 4, but it's towards the beginning of Star Trek 4 where everybody's in the Starbase Command Center and they've got a distress call playing in the back screen. And the guy actually identifies himself as Captain Joel Randolph of the USS Yorktown. So I think he's another captain that you can kind of sneak in to fill the role of the Saratoga captain. Obviously, low captain skill, I would say, just because we don't see him on screen very often or very much. So the ability, again, I would think would have to do with emergency power, aux power tokens, that type. Of course, if we're going to have the USS Excelsior and we're going to flavor it towards the Undiscovered Country, I think we should have another Hikaru Sulu captain. This one I made skill 7 with an elite talent slot. Obviously, the captain skills are very, they're up for debate. This is just, again, very bare bones. This is kind of what I would like to see card-wise in the faction pack versus skills, points, and abilities. So I think Hikaru Sulu makes perfect sense to come in. And that's that. Okay, so this will be the only admiral in the pack that I would have. And this would be Cartwright. He's an admiral we don't have in the game yet. I think he'd be a perfect fit for it. You can definitely make him one of the admirals flavored towards attacking Klingons, I think, for an ability, just because of Star Trek 6 again, pulling thematic elements from that. We've got multiple Klingon cards that attack other things of a particular faction. I guess we do have a Cisco that attacks Dominion faction. I don't see why Cartwright couldn't be of the same kind of flavor. An Admiral ability could be spreading it around to all the ships, where the Captain ability could be, +1 attack die against the Klingon, then his forward firing arc, or, the Admiral could be something along those lines as well. But that would be the only Admiral for the pack. The last Captain would be Claw. Of course, you're going to have a Klingon Captain for the Klingon ship. Again, definitely geared towards Star Trek 5 for him. And you can... Alright. So starting with the crew, you've got Jillian Taylor from Star Trek 4. Don't have her yet. There's things that can be done with her that would be thematic as well. I think she'd be an awesome include. Commander Sonak. So he is from the motion picture. He's actually the replacement science officer for Spock, and he was killed in that transporter accident when they were trying to get the Enterprise up and going to meet V'ger. Again, he's just another crew that we haven't had in the game before. With the advent of the Vulcan faction pack, boosting Vulcans, I mean, you can give him a dual faction. I know there's, that way he can do things with Vulcan cards. Again, you can flavor something towards the thematic of scanning. There's things that can be done. I think he'd be a good inclusion. Okay, so for the Excelsior crew, I think we should definitely get another Tuvok. The Tuvok that came it didn't come in the Excelsior pack. I think it actually came in the Enterprise B pack, which would actually make it very hard to find. I think that Tuvok didn't really do him justice. So I think a kind of a refresh card for him would be a good idea. And he's not the only one, because I believe the next one is Janice Rand. Obviously, you can pull inspiration from Star Trek 6, or you can actually pull inspiration from the Voyager episode called Flashback from Season 3, Episode 2. I think that's right. Yeah. You can do that because that kind of explored more of the Excelsior during the Star Trek 6 movie. But yeah, I think you can take these two crew and give them some good thematic abilities as well. Alright, so here's a fun one. So, I definitely think we need a Cybok. Star Trek 5, love it or hate it, it is a Star Trek movie, and I think we should probably include some elements from it. I mean, we got Ambassador Accord in the Klingon faction pack. So I definitely think we should bring Cybok in. You'll notice I did give him an elite talent slot because while I was thinking about it, I think there's probably an elite talent that they could probably add into the faction pack. That Cybok could only use, or it can only be equipped to Cybok. And I think if for an ability, I would go something more thematic where he can do something with crew and captains to kind of make them work for him, so he can reach out and touch an enemy captain, maybe do their action or something like that. But I think Cybok could be a fun addition into the game. I would not make him an ambassador or a captain. I feel like his impact could be more as a crew with an elite talent slot. Of course, if we're going to have Claw and Claw's Bird of Prey, we're going to have Vixus. That would be his second officer on his Bird of Prey, which, by the way, that's the only reason that Bird of Prey isn't in Vanity named, is because it did not have a name on screen. so we can call it Claw's Bird of Prey, and we can kind of get away with it. Kind of the same idea that they did with Chang's Bird of Prey, where it didn't actually have a name in Alpha Canon. So just kind of working on those along those lines. But Vixus, you can give her an ability that definitely plays with Claw's Bird of Prey, maybe a cloaking ability, something along those lines. All right, and then I added this in because it seems like whoever's designing Attack Wing these days really likes to add their 24th, or not the 20, just their spirits into the game. We got Meridor and Goran Ale, we've got Kanar, so we might as well get some good old Romulan ale put into this, as seen in the card art there, coming straight from Star Trek 6. You can definitely use that to your advantage. I'm sure they can figure out some kind of ability that makes it work. Okay, so the final two cards are going to be the Ambassador cards, and these are the last two ambassadors from Star Trek V. Since we've already got Cord, we might as well throw these two ambassadors in. So we got Kathleen Dar, the Romulan, and then St. John Talbot, the Federation ambassador. Again, I think you could probably gear their abilities towards a thematic theme for Star Trek V. Maybe they're able to affect the enemy ships somehow. Nope, I don't know. I lost it. But yeah, there's definitely abilities that can be done. Overall, I think this is a good start for this faction pack. I don't think I'll be right. If they do something like this, and WizKids, if you watch this video, please consider making a faction pack like this. I know faction packs have been geared towards factions, but I don't think you definitely need to limit yourself to that. You can roll out with episodic packs. These movie packs are nice. And then you can kind of work around that. And this will give you a chance to go back and recast the original constitutions and give the Yorktown an ability, and the Enterprise A can get a new ability, or it can get the Grand Prize ability, and you can kind of get the price of that ship under control, and people can start playing with one of the most iconic ships in Star Trek history. But thank you everybody for watching this video, and I hope you guys find this as fun as I do, speculating about this stuff. Again, this is just kind of my love letter to WizKids saying, please consider this. But yeah, if you like this kind of content, so consider giving the video a thumbs up, hitting that subscribe button. That way it helps supports and grows the channel, and then you won't miss any of our new videos, or subspace communications as I like to call them, as they come out. I apologize to say a lot. It's something I am working on. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good night. Comment below what kind of cards you think I'm missing for this faction pack. I did not include weapons or tech, because really you could pull those from anywhere. I do strongly believe that a photon torpedo, based on the photon torpedoes we see in Star Trek 6, where they can hit a cloaked ship, would be super awesome in the game. They wouldn't need a target lock. But yes, comment below what cards you think I'm missing, or what cards you think should go in this faction pack. And stay tuned for the next.